Hello, hello. Welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your host, Liam Crow. And today's interview, we got
Ray.
Ray.
Ray Plante.
Ray Plante. That's how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
I always thought it was like Plante.
No, it's French Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. From my dad's side.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us where you're from.
We were right down the street from here. We were in Richardson, Texas, and I lived on the street further down my parents lived on the street further down, and when I was born, the closest hospital was Plano, so I was born in Plano. But it was we lived in a duplex, and then when I turned 2, we moved to the house that we're in now. So.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And my family, they're from Rhode Island, and my mom was trying to use the relocation factor because my dad was an alcoholic and an addict. And, new faces, new places, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. You'll find new things, new people, and new bars. So.
Yeah. The game's the same no matter where you go.
Exactly, yeah.
You try to run away, you're always there.
Yeah.
Or at least in my experience.
Yeah. This is always here. That's what it is.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So what was your DOC?
Mine was, first it was alcohol.
Okay.
And then it was Adderall. The first time I did cocaine, I loved it. I did that for a while, but the first time I did it, it was from a friend who rolled it up and put it in the dollar. And I was talking to a friend later, a couple days after that, and they were like, you were up for like 2 days? Oh no, that was meth. I'm like, okay.
Oh.
But I didn't really seek it. I did it afterwards too. But I was like, this shit's gonna kill me.
Oh.
So I only did it every once in a while, and when I was at the bar with people.
So socially.
Socially, yeah. I hadn't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that kind of develops, right?
Yeah.
It just starts as social and fun, and then as it moves, or in my experience, it was as I moved towards just myself, that's whenever the real problem started to arise.
Yeah.
So with alcohol, when did you first think you had a problem? Or when did you first know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, deep down, I probably knew when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And I would put it away for a while and go back to it. But I always went back to that. I always went to it. That was my thing. And backstory is like when I was growing up, my dad had a carpet business. And his guys would come over on Friday to get paid. So I was making vodka and grapefruit juices on Fridays. Dude, I was like 8 or 9.
Wow.
10 in that area. So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I'd be like in school, like on Friday, like, hey, and it was just the feeling of making the drink and then just licking the spoon.
Licking the spoon?
Licking the spoon, putting my hand on the stove. It didn't burn me yet,
yeah.
But
yeah.
I just loved it, and I went on and didn't think about it until like my parents were out of town, and my sister would have some friends over, and they would drink, and I would drink a couple, and I would be like, I remember specifically one time, I had 3, and I was like, all right, this is good, and that was it. And I was like 15.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And I never really thought about it again until I failed out of Bishop Lynch freshman year.
Oh, man.
They asked me not to come back because I didn't do homework. I hated it. I hated homework. Why go to school for 8 hours and 4 hours of homework? That's stupid, And I ended up not needing a degree anyways. So
there you go.
I went to a trade school. That's a very viable option.
Yes, sir.
So they asked me not to. So that summer, my mom was looking for a school for me. and I helped my dad replace the fence. And I remember him saying, if your mom doesn't find you a school, you're going to work with me the rest of your life installing carpet.
Huh.
That wouldn't have worked out well because I am horrible at math. I am. Math makes me freeze up, and I'm like, yeah. So anyways, the school she found, it was funny because it was for self-paced kids that were addicts and alcoholics.
Huh.
So, I didn't, they would do, like, the school was so small, it was like, my graduating class had like 15, 20 people maybe.
Damn.
So, anyways, 60 kids at a time, a semester, basically. And all grades, actually, 9 through 12. And each semester, they would randomly pull a name out of a hat for a drug test. Yeah. And, they would tell us, I mean, I didn't do drugs at the time. I didn't really even drink until later. I'll get to that later.
Okay.
And the last semester of school, they pulled my name. And everyone was like, oh, that's a waste of time. Because they knew, I mean, But I had fun and stuff. My friends, I ended up hanging out with two of my older class. The classrooms were set up with everyone in different grades were in a class because the work was sent to us from Nebraska College, and we would do workbooks and send them there, and that's how we did it.
That's interesting.
So I loved it because I was held back in early childhood because I was born with a disability called spina bifida, and I'm able to walk and stuff, which is I have the best case of the worst.
Yeah.
They didn't think I would walk. I was 3 years old when I walked, and we were at my house, and my aunt and my uncle on my mom's side were visiting, and I was inside with my dad. And I don't remember any of this. This is just stories I've heard. And my dad runs out to the back and says, hey, he's walking and all that. And my uncle Ray and my aunt Betty Ann, they were like, oh, he's drunk, whatever. He's been drinking. He's just messing around. And then finally he went back out a couple more times, and they finally had to come back in to see it. So, it's... I forget really where I was going with that story, but, these friends, I met some friends, really good friends. I still talk to one of them. His name's Rob, and so we would hang out, and drink on the weekends after I graduated high school.
Gotcha.
Because I was afraid of getting in trouble for even weed and stuff like that. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't. It was one of those, I did it when it was around. I never bought it, but I always smoked it. And so I would drink, and we never did any drugs over there. I mean, they weren't really, those friends weren't really into drugs. They were into drinking and having a good time.
Okay.
And, I remember one summer I just stayed over in Plano with my friends at his apartment, just hung out. And it was fun, but, I can see the damage happening way back then, not calling my parents and saying, hey, I'm going to stay here, just doing it,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm a man, don't worry about what I'm doing type of thing. So.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Whenever we're young, we feel like we're so old and like know everything, and then you look back at it and you're like, nah, I didn't know shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I definitely didn't. On the weekends, I remember I would come home, like I would drink sometimes. Okay, I would drink sometimes when I was still in high school, just not much. And during the weekends, I would come home, and I remember driving home, and sometimes I remember not driving home. And that was scary. I mean, to look back at it is like, wow, dang, I remember even some days, like some nights I'd get out of the truck to go in the house, and I'm like, dang, wow, it's like I just teleported. You know, I mean, it's like I went through time, and I'm like, here I am. And I'm like, I remember one time it was Saturday. It was on a Saturday. My dad was in the kitchen reading a newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
and I walked out, and I had a massive hangover.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I had a hangover. And he goes, hey, so I forgot what he said. Like, did I have a good time or something like that? But my truck was parked like this far away from the curb.
Oh man.
I think he even said, hey, you better go move your truck before your mom finds out.
Oh.
He was one of those because he was one of us. He was like, I remember my first concert, I was 14, and I went to go see White Zombie. And
Okay.
he was like, hey, there's going to be some stuff passed around, and as your dad, you probably shouldn't do it. But if you want to, go for it. And, you know,
Oh man.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a kid, you know, that's kind of cool, you know. And, you know, I've read something earlier that said, you know, as you grow up, you find out who your parents really were. And my parents, I love my parents to death. My mom, I love her to death. I still live with her. My dad passed in '04.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, '04. He died of septic shock. His
Ooh.
body just said, I'm done. You know, I'm enough with this. And my sister told me a while back, she was like, yeah, we talked one time. He opened up and he was like, you know, I'm regretful and sorry for all the things that I put your mother through, you know. And he knew, but he wasn't conscious of it because he was always under the influence. And I can totally understand that. His was actually the first person on my step 9 that I did a amends to.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
and because I could sympathize with him. As I went on in sobriety, I understood what he went through and how he was feeling. He wasn't doing it to us. I mean, he never laid a hand on me or anyone, but, you know, he just would get angry and stuff when he drank. And, you know, we started off in the big book, it says, you know, we drank for conviviality at first, which is totally true, and did other things. And then at the end, towards the end, it just takes over. And that's what it did. I remember the last group of friends that I drank with and stuff on Friday nights. You know, they would tell me, you knocked over a table. I mean, like I Chris Farley'd into it. Not just knocked it over, but I would like Chris Farley into a table.
Oh man.
And I don't remember it, you know. I mean, I would wake up with cuts and scratches and stuff, and, you know, that was that. And I wouldn't talk to them till the next Friday because I knew, like, I would look down and read a text message like, oh man, you know. So I knew towards the end this was just not affecting me, but everyone around me. So
Okay. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that blackout drunk is scary.
Yeah.
Especially if you drove.
Oh yeah.
But glad you're all right.
Yeah.
Just maybe parked a little too far off the curb.
Oh yeah, just a bit. Yeah. I never parked on the line, but I've gotten close.
Just on the curb.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh, and another thing is, so when I moved out the first time, I eventually got married and stuff, and I went out with a friend, and I got a DWI, and that's when my license was suspended, and when it came back up for renewal, in my mind I was like, no, I'm gonna kill someone. And that's honestly why I've never got my license back. That was like 13 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And now prices of everything have gone up, so
Yeah.
whatever. You know?
It worked out for the best.
Yeah, kind of. So.
Well, man, you sure have had quite the story.
Yeah.
And so with your dad being one of us, do you think that like influenced you, like nature versus nurture, or do you think you were probably going to go down that path one way or another? Both.
I believe this is a family disease. I forget what it's called, but it's a book of diseases and alcohol addiction. Alcoholism and addiction is classified as a disease, and I believe it both influenced me in living it and seeing it and also I believe that it was gonna be part of my destiny anyways. I mean, unless I never touched this stuff, I believe. Yep. One time I remember hearing someone say something in a meeting about there's two sons, one grew up watching his father and never drank. One grew up watching his father and became a raging alcoholic. Mm-hmm. And the point of it was, why? And then one answered. Actually, they both answered because I watched my father growing up. Mm-hmm. So I believe that this was gonna just part of my story. Okay. I mean, God. I believe in God, and God has a plan. Far bigger than what I know and what I can see. Yeah. So I've gotten to the point where I don't question. Yeah. Why is this happening? It's why is this happening for me now?
Mm-hmm. I heard someone say something about the lines of instead of why me, it's more like what am I getting out of this?
Yes. Yeah. What are you teaching me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I like to say this to some people, like when they're going through a hard time, is like, I'm like, I don't get the whole. I'm not supposed to. We don't have to understand the whole point. Mm-hmm. I'm going through whatever I'm going through to help the next person through it. Mm-hmm. Why? To help them through it. But that's not my part. I don't need to know the whole part. I don't want to know the rest of my story. Yeah. I mean, I enjoy life. I wish this and that was happening, and God, but that'll be more shall be revealed. Like the book says, and I'm a firm believer in that. As long as I keep up with my prayer and meditation,
stay spiritually fit.
Yeah, exactly. Stay spiritually fit. I won't fall back into why me.
So what's a good example of you trying to be the one-act show, like the stage manager, the actor, doing the lights? Because in the book, it talks about we're trying to be the show, run the show all by ourselves. Is there a certain story that comes to mind with that? Or what about a story that has a good lesson for you that you didn't realize it until later?
Well,
a lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah. The one that came to mind when you said that was, so there's a Kroger right down the street from here, and I used to work there. Towards the end, 2015 to 2018, and it's early 2018. I was actually fired on my birthday.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, but good reason. So I was going out to the bar every weekend with my friends, but I was drinking every day. I was a daily drinker. I mean,
yep.
I had to feed myself, feed my mind, and to keep the monsters away, as they say. I mean, I don't have any monsters. I drowned them. I was drowning them in what I was drinking and using. So anyways, I started working overnights, which is fine. I would take Adderall, so I was like, I can get through this. They put me on the drink aisles, and they were like, you got to get 2 aisles done in 2 hours. And it was like the heaviest shit, and like 4 pallets a night, every other night at least. And the manager was like, man, what's taking you so long? I'm like, look, man, you see all this? So anyways, the funny thing is, like, I go in there now, and the first time I went in there and they rearranged it, they did it to where the aisles have spots for pallets for the water and stuff. I used to have to unload at least like 50-something things of water and Cokes. It is what it is. I used to have, but it wasn't really, it was synthetic kind of. And I mean, I miss being in shape like that, but do I really? So anyways, going back to the question, is like the feeling like the actor, the stage manager is, I would work overnights. And I would come home in the day, and I wouldn't want to go to sleep. It's like, I want to stay up and do stuff. And so I would go in that vicious cycle, you know?
Yeah.
One story I'll tell is so, you know, Adderall was my main thing.
Mm-hmm.
And my prescription would get filled. You know, it's like, okay, so it's going to get filled. So I worked overnights. I would walk 1.5 miles to the doctor's office, pick up my prescription, and walk back the same distance to the same Kroger, because you know everyone knew something.
Yeah.
So I'd get it filled, and I would stay up till like 11:30 noon,
Oh wow.
and go to sleep. Maybe go to sleep until I had to go to work at 11 or midnight.
Oh man.
And I just wanted to keep doing that. I just wanted to party all the time. And, you know, I like having fun now, but it's not. I don't have to. You know, I don't have to feel like I'm in charge of it. You know. That's the thing, is I go with the flow now. You know.
Be water.
Yeah, that's right.
So in recovery, one of the things we're told that we kind of have to do is surrender.
Yeah.
To me, after a point, the surrender, I realized that it was more of a strength to be able to do that. What is your take on like surrender or giving up you? Not necessarily your identity, but like what you want necessarily. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes total sense. So, in the beginning of my recovery, like I want to say about 1.5 years or something, I started dating this really, really beautiful woman, you know, and she's real sweet. She lived right down the street from me, real convenient, all that shit. So, no, and we'd go to the same home group, you know, whatever. So she left. Her addiction got her addiction, and she had some other health problems pop up, and that got the better of her. So she went back into her addiction, in her alcoholism, and I had the hardest time dealing with that, you know. So every time, like on a Friday or Saturday night at my old home group, I'd walk in, and one of my really good friends, you know, I love her to death for this, is I'd walk in, and she'd be like, she, you know, say hi and all this, and then the meeting would open, and they were like, all right, well, does anyone have a topic? And she would look over at me and be like, hey, Ray, page 417. And what 417 in the big book is about acceptance, you know? And it took me forever I understood the concepts. We understand the concepts, you know, of course, but it took me forever to be okay with it. I think, you know, I believe that everything that's led me to now is why I'm here. That might sound kind of weird or backwards or whatever.
Nah.
But so that was going on, and then COVID came along, you know, and so COVID came along. My sponsor, he was struggling. He's like, how are we going to do this without meeting and stuff and all this, blah, blah, blah. And so that, honestly, that got me to reach outside myself. As far as not just to people, but like spirituality stuff. I got on YouTube and I started just typing in stuff. And I started watching Eckhart Tolle. And that really helped. That was like, and my sponsor, you know, I talked to him. And you'd be like, wow, you know, all that stuff. And then so it went along, and then eventually meetings started opening back up. And the first one that opened back up I went to. It was in a different fellowship that I started in, but I was at the point where I was like, I was missing something in my recovery, I felt. And I started going to this other fellowship, and, you know, that's what I was missing, was fellowship. Not you know, the camaraderie of everyone else, and hearing how they recover, you know. That helped me, and then, you know, I was going along with that. And then, you know, I still go to that group too. I go to my home group my old home group every once in a while. I go to that group, it's the NA. You know, I started in AA, went to NA, And then a friend that was in NA, introduced me to this other group, Cocaine Anonymous. And I was like, whoa, hey, we can talk about drugs and alcohol, because I was one of those. I would be at my old home group, and I was okay with it, but like
everyone else,
someone else would be like, hey, my name's so and so, I'm an alcoholic and addict, and I would just go, because I know the old timers were just like, I'm like, And so now it doesn't bother me, but I just thought it was funny because I was talking about that with someone the other day. And I was like, yeah, that's funny. I just kind of, it's almost like that now. When I go to an NA group and someone says I'm an alcoholic, I'm like, ooh.
yeah, wrong one.
Because, anyways, but so now I find that the more I've reached out, the more fit I stay. The more, I help others, and someone can help me with in recovery. Someone's been through something like that, like what you're going through, or exactly like it. And if not, I know so and so has been through this. Let me talk to them, or I know of someone. Let me talk to them. If you don't want to give their anonymity out, and it's just everyone. I just love recovery. It's my life now. It's not part of my life. It is my life. I have to. Recovery comes first. Because I've been, like I was saying, when my ex left, that I was in this whole shell. Like I was like, I don't want to do anything, blah blah blah. But I know we have to get to a point where we're like, okay, we're either going to fall back into old habits or go try something new. We have to get uncomfortable enough to try something new.
Yep.
And I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
It's funny. I went to I was able to help someone, actually a couple people with that same problem, that so and so leaving, and they were like, oh, and I was like, we just have to be strong enough to keep going on.
Yeah. Fellowship is really important.
Oh yeah.
The program I went to, they had 15 biblical principles, and number 7 states, we believe that one must maintain a fellowship with God and with those friends who help in his recovery.
Oh, that's good.
And I loved that because it's important.
Yeah.
And one of the first things they also said, you reminded me of, I had to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And now it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that earlier, too. It's like those old cliches, man. I'm starting to fall back into them. Like the cliche sayings. Like, I say them because that's who I am. But, it's because they work. You know? I mean, yeah, you have to get uncomfortable enough. And then if you keep doing it, just keep doing it, and you'll get to a place where you're comfortable.
Yep. Yep. And
I was kind of like, okay, how is this going to work today, too? It's like, I told you about, my house wasn't really an option. And then I was like, you know what, maybe it'll work this way. I didn't know if there'd be like 1,000 people running around screaming and stuff. And I was like, all right, well.
Worked out well.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think I'm going to have to do more of them outside, too.
Right.
Because this is nice.
Yeah. Just in the shade, especially this
Oh,
time.
Yeah. I'm from Amarillo, so it's a dry heat, but it's also windy. So you stand in the shade for a bit, you get cooled down. Oh, okay. But here it's like, I feel like I just walked out of a shower.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been that way my whole life.
Yeah, see, I'm barely getting used to this. Yeah. But
I'm not. My whole life, but I'm not. No person from Dallas is used to this, I don't think.
Fair enough. I can see why. So on the steps, I know some people find 4 and 5 the hardest, and then others find like 8 and 9. Which step did you find the hardest to really do? Maybe not like read it and kind of start it, but like actually do it.
4.
4?
4, for sure. Definitely 4. There's a lot of backstory with that. Is when I was dating that woman, my ex-grand sponsor, he was super jealous. And he would tell my sponsor to hold me back on things. that's part of my story. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
can't. You know, he's sick. You know, we're all sick,
Yep.
and so it took me a while, not just because of that, but because I was going through that breakup, and I didn't want to write it down because when we're doing it, it's the hardest thing in the world for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's so freeing. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it took me a long time, and I was finally able to sponsor when I on my 2 year, which is my story. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't suggest just kicking rocks through your steps. You know, but you know, that's my story. Amends, they're not so bad. I mean, they can be uncomfortable. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And my amends went pretty well, and that's, you know, I'm thankful for that. There's a part in the big book that says, like when we, like in the beginning, we'll want to rush home and talk about it and make amends right away. Well, you know what I did, and to my mom and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, it worked out in my case. You know,
That's
results may vary. I don't suggest that. I say that in meetings too. Do not do that. And you know, I'm grateful because they knew that I was suffering.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm just very grateful for that. So
Yeah. Well, that's good, man.
yeah,
Yeah. Step 9, I think you said it best. It's really uncomfortable. Maybe not hard.
yeah,
And because I had problems on step 4 too, because it's like I know everything up here, but like writing it down was like putting it here.
yeah. Yeah. You gotta exactly.
And then it was like, man, I'm not that much of a bad person, am I? And then it's like,
Yeah,
it brought out, like, addiction brings out the worst in us.
yeah,
And so the character defects just really like shine.
yeah,
And it's learning how to kind of not sidestep, but change the defect into an attribute,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, what was it that really got you sober? Like, of course, for yourself to get better, but what was the pivotal moment that really made you go like, I got it?
Right on. So I have a neighbor. She's in recovery.
Oh, okay.
And so my sister and her ex used to live there,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, "Hey, you know, always mad at me because I was always drinking," and then her husband at the time would, you know, it would just cause problems between them.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't seeing it at the time, but I was, and so she went to my neighbor's house
Mm-hmm.
and had her come over and talk to me.
Huh.
And it planted a seed. You know, I was like, you know, they're getting fired too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, actually, yeah, the getting fired, started the seed. You know, that started the ball rolling in my head that, you know, this is it. I need to, you know, I'm tired of this. And she came and talked to me, and then finally I warmed up to, I'm like, hey, you know, when can I go to a meeting with you? You know? And so I started going to meetings. It was in Plano, not at ODAT. It was farther. It was Spring Creek or Legacy. I don't know if it was Legacy Group. It might have been, but anyways, I was doing it. I was going to meetings. That's what I was doing, just showing my face and this feels good. It's comfortable. And then finally, I just one last hurrah. You know, we were driving home, and she showed me the Richardson Group. She was like, "Hey, I think you might like it there better because I've been there, and it's just." They're your type of people, you know, more your type of people. Okay. So that set the ball rolling for, you know, one night I lied and I'm going to a meeting. And I didn't know that they knew that she wasn't going. So, you know what? This God's plan. It's fine. You know, it's fine. You know, and I went out, had a few shots. You know, of course, I took some pills. You know, why not? And do what we do, and finally got home. Nothing, you know. Everyone was asleep. Okay, good. So I drank a half a bottle of vodka that was there.
Because it's there.
Because it's there, and I was still,
Mm-hmm.
and my brother-in-law, he was getting ready for work, and I think they kind of knew and they heard me, and so he walks in my room, and he throws the bottle on my bed, and he goes, "What the is this? I thought you were done."
Mm-hmm.
And that was as long as I keep that feeling of that I can't remember what they call it in the book, but the remembering how that felt at that moment, that's good. We need to that's what happens if we go back out and do this or whatever. So I started going to the Richardson group, and I really liked it, man. I did. I liked it. I had a case going, stealing money from Kroger when I worked there because it was there. I was working the register. When I remember before I did, I was like, I'd never want to work behind the register.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got the best of me, So, I forgot where I was going with that, but
your story of getting clean and sober.
Oh yeah. So the feeling of so I didn't have a job for a while, and I was going to like 3 meetings a day. I did 3 meetings for a while.
A day?
And, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and to stay away from the house, basically, stay out of the uncomfortable. You know? And because I had read this book, like 3 times before I started doing the program, actually working the program.
Oh, okay.
And because the neighbor I went to meetings with, she gave me a copy of the book. And it didn't mean anything to me. It did, but it didn't resonate.
Yeah.
And so eventually, I got a job working at a warehouse, and 10 hours a day. I was still hitting 2 meetings a night. 2 meetings a night, 5 days a week. Sometimes I'd go to 6 or 7 meetings.
Wow.
Well, the 10 meetings plus the weekend sometimes. And it was great. I had a sponsor, and my sponsor was like, "Man, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Man, I have to. I got no choice. This is it for me."
Damn.
Yeah.
That's some determination there.
It is. I mean, it's uncomfortable. Like I said, I have to I'm either going to go this way and go back in the ditch, or, trudge the road of happy destiny.
Yep.
So.
So whenever you're doing that many meetings per day, did you know what a home group was, like, starting off? Or did you just, like, kind of consider all of those your home groups?
Well, see, at first I was only doing the Richardson group.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that for about 2.5, let's see, 18, 19, 2.5 years,
Oh, wow, okay. So that's your old home group.
Yeah, that's my old home group.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you know how some people that don't understand addiction, they go, it's just a matter of willpower. These people have no willpower.
Yeah.
I think that is entirely wrong because we could have nothing, and then by the end of the day, we'd have our fix.
Yeah.
And, and watching people in recovery, watching their willpower really makes me just go like, these people are determined as hell to do anything and everything.
Yeah.
So willpower definitely isn't the problem. It's being powerless over alcohol and other mind-altering substances.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I can be powerless over anything, food. For a while I used food while I was in recovery, like, I don't want to face this, so, I would just eat a lot, Yeah.
Got to replace one habit with another habit.
Yeah, and that's how that worked out. I'm losing that weight, the fat, I should say,
Fair enough. I bet this heat helps.
Oh yeah, it's going to. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So let's see. We've got your kind of sober story. We got how you started for the most part. What are like some future goals, like any short-term or long-term goals that you're like dead set on, or are you just kind of like walking and you're going to see what doors open?
Yeah, that's how I do it. Like I try to set little goals, and sometimes they don't work out. So I just keep readjusting.
Okay.
I never see things as a failure. As this just didn't work out. Okay, what did I learn from it? And you can't stay in anger about it. Like, I should have done this or that.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen the way they happen.
Yeah.
I have, sure I have long-term goals. Eventually I want to get my own place and, maybe get my driver's license back. Maybe, because Texas is the hardest place to get a driver's license.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea.
It is, yeah. So I don't know if I can take that again. The written part. I know how to drive. I drove for the past. Yeah, let's not get into that. I mean, it's a skill I have. Yeah.
I like that it's skill you have.
Yeah.
So for your recovery, what do you find is quintessential for it? Like, it is absolutely paramount that you do this one thing or a couple things to maintain your spiritual fitness.
Every morning I have to get up and talk to God, my higher power.
Okay.
I have to. I have my alarm set, so I leave for work around 7-ish. So I can get up by 6:35 the latest.
Uh-huh.
I set like 3 alarms on my phone, and if I'm up at 6, I play on my phone sometimes. I look, whatever, read news, all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I've gotten to know that when that 6:15 alarm goes off, I sit up and I set that down. I read a few different things. I go to church sometimes on Sundays. I have a church, a non-denominational church, which I love because it's like recovery. I mean, we have a higher power. We just don't exclude. So I have to get up, read the daily reflection. I've done that for over 5 years. Since maybe missed a few times early in the beginning when I was going through that breakup I talked about. And but yeah, read that, and then the church has a daily reflection itself, a Bible verse. And I told my sponsor about it, and he said, "Hey, send that to me." So I send that to him like every day, and then I've been doing that for like years also. And a few other people I've told, and they're like, "Hey, send that to me." Like, okay, so that's part of my helping others. It's not my business if they don't read it. They, sometimes they reply back and they don't. That's fine. It is. So I have to do that. When I go to lunch, I pray before lunch. Thank you for getting me through this part of the day or whatever. And helping me, putting me where I need to be, and helping me be okay with someone else's attitude at work or whatever. Knowing that they're not mad at me, it's just how things are, But like we're all going through something that we don't talk about. That someone else probably can't understand. I mean, in the non-recovery world, and I've gotten okay with that. Like someone snaps at me at work or whatever, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I come home for the past 4 years. I take a nap after work every day. I have to. Even before I got older, I took naps. And I wake up, because if I go to a meeting directly after work, which I've done, my mind's jello. I don't retain, and I don't. More importantly, I can't contribute anything that's worthwhile contributing.
Gotcha.
And that's my main thing is, like they say, is some meetings you go to and you don't share, it's because you needed to hear something, and vice versa. So when I share, I don't want to just be like kind of like blah, zoned out because I can't think, so. And I have before, I do every once in a while, and it's like, does that make sense? Sometimes. I quit. See, I've learned through recovery that whatever we share, someone needs to hear it. Not specifically, it doesn't matter. Newcomer meetings are essential to my recovery.
Okay.
I mean, I've been going to newcomer meetings since I started.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because it helps me stay remember where I was, desperate for a new kind, to be where I wasn't, and a new mindset,
Yeah. And I just noticed your hat, dopeless.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we have a friend, Jojo, he used to make recovery clothes.
Merchandise.
That's a merch, yeah. And so, in the shirt too, Dopeless Society, yeah. Yeah, I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, I've got a few hats and shirts and hoodies, but he doesn't make them anymore. But he's moved on to bigger endeavors in life, and which is awesome. He's in recovery too. Yeah, and but yeah, I was I like to share that group is like I have to be a vessel for my recovery. For recovery, not just my recovery. Sometimes I'll forget I'm wearing this hat, and I'll get in an Uber or Lyft or something, and we'll start talking, and they'll say something, and I'll be like, oh yeah, And I remember one driver, he picked me up to go to a meeting at the Fix, and he's like, hey, where are you headed to? I'm like, I'm headed to CA, and he goes, you're taking an Uber to a meeting? I'm like, hell yeah, I have to. It's it's essential. Like it's my meetings, I mean, it's. It's just something I've done. I mean, it's, it boils down to, I don't have the stress of having to drive. I can get to anywhere I need to, money being, if I have enough money, and, but I always make sure I go to meetings,
Oh, yeah.
They're important.
And I'm just like 20 minutes away now. So
Right
if you're ever like, hey, like, I can swing on by.
Okay,
so.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Speaking of, 627, I assume you're going to Friday night.
Yeah, if you're going.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Yeah.
I was actually thinking that. I was like, we're going to do an interview, and then right after that, shoot to a meeting.
That's fucking, see, man, when people I get like goosebumps when people talk about recovery and how it's helped, and like I was telling you, I talked to one driver there. So there's a sober living house right over here too. A couple good friends live in. They're good friends now, and I was talking to one guy that picked me up, and he's like asking me where I'm going, and I told him. He goes, "Yeah, man, trying to beat this gambling addiction,
Oh, man.
So the thing is, like, that's a tough one too. But the point being is like I'm still able to be helpful to that person. I was able to tell him, hey, there's meetings for GA and things like that. And he's like, really? And so he's like, I'll look it up. And a couple weeks later, he picked me up to go to the same place. And I really don't like to, but I was like, hey man, how's that going? And he goes, man, I'm just not ready to quit yet. And I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I know exactly where he's at.
Yep.
Not ready to give it up. He was like stuck in the middle, and that's a tough place. I mean, I can't.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Addiction's addiction,
Yep.
I mean, so we've lost a bunch of things, no matter what our addiction was: gambling, sex, alcohol, drugs. We lose material possessions, but that was important to us back then. Nowadays, it's not. I got food, clothes, a place to live. I live at my mom's house, help her out, and I mean, as long as I keep carrying the message, that's the biggest thing I was going to talk about is us as addicts and alcoholics. we're able to help others out that have no idea how to reach out to other people for normal issues, you know? And I think that's just a huge blessing, you know? I mean, I think it is.
Yeah. So I assume you're a sponsor for some people?
Yes.
Nice.
So sponsorship's important. I have one sponsee, which I've had for a while, and, you know, he's a great guy. I love him to death. He's an AA, you know. He doesn't
Understand the drug.
He gets
part.
it, but he doesn't get it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like he's talked about like Benadryl or something. He's like, yeah, nah, it just wasn't my thing, or things like that, you know. And he doesn't get it, but I understand that, you know. I mean, there's things that I haven't done in my addiction that other people have that I don't get, but I sympathize with and understand. You know, the thing about sponsorship is I've had a bunch of sponsors too, and one good thing someone told me a long time ago is, no matter what, if a sponsee goes back out and drinks or whatever happened passes, it's not your fault. Carry the message, not the mess, not the addict or alcoholic. You know, God's plan is bigger than anyone can imagine.
Yep. And yeah.
Oh, and also they were like, you didn't fail. You know,
no,
you didn't fail. You carried the message to the best of your ability. So.
Yeah, it's hard to do that though too.
Oh yeah. When feelings, you know, as humans, yeah, it's hard to do that. I mean,
yeah, because especially whenever you invest in someone, because it takes not just time but energy, and you're giving a part of yourself away. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I guess I've gotten in the mindset of like with my sponsee, man, I've gained a lot from him, information and knowledge, and you know, we can joke around about, I mean, like we do at the home group and stuff, and it just being jokes and stuff. It's like I get fed from everyone, you know. I learn from everyone, and you know, that's the thing. You learn something from someone's failure, someone's wins.
Yeah, there's lessons everywhere.
Oh,
you just have to listen and pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. It goes back to that whole, why is this happening to me? All right, what's the message? This is happening for me. Let me pay a little more attention to what it's trying to teach me.
Yeah, and my counselor, she's real big on patterns, and I have to agree that patterns tend to repeat themselves until you learn that lesson.
Oh yeah. Things will present themselves until you learn the lesson. You know, the hot stove in the book, you know, that it talks about. You know, well, made this hurt. You know.
Yeah, it's not hot yet.
It's not. Yeah, not yet. And I believe that, you know, people going back out, man, you know, it's sad and heartbreaking. You know, recently had someone that I really care about go back out, and thankfully they're okay, but we're probably not going to see them for a while. But yeah, I mean, that's part of addiction, you know, part of life. And, you know, as long as I learn from that, like, it gets, like in the book, that's where I was going. In the book, it says it gets worse, never better. And it's a progressive disease. So I moved on to NA and then CA because the thought of a beer or liquor just doesn't sound appealing at all. Yeah. You know, I mean, honestly, it doesn't. And except for, I'm a little parched now, but, you know, that makes it worse. You know, so if I was to reach for one of those, my life would just come crashing down. I've seen that in so many different cases, you know, I mean, past, you know, like over the years, man. And hopefully they come back. Some people, I've seen a bunch of people go back out and come back in, and then it stick. And, you know, knock on wood, you know, they haven't gone back out yet. There's always a yet. I'm eligible also. You know?
Yep.
And that's why I got to make recovery my life, you know, not just part of my life. I've got to incorporate life into my recovery.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
Because, I was thinking last night, actually, I was like lifestyle versus habit versus just kind of like a characteristic set, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And recovery is all expansive because it's, for some people, their triggers was just being alive.
Yeah.
Or just,
yeah.
Because that was mine, like boredom and just existing.
Yeah.
Was like, I've got to use, got to drink.
Exactly. To feel better, to feel more comfortable in my skin. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a meme that's it shows a guy. It's a cartoon and he's transparent, and then it shows this is what it's like to be an addict, and it shows like his bones, like I don't know how to explain it, but like his bones aren't like his bones are all catty corner and stuff like that. Like this is what an addict feels like being in your own skin, and it's so true. I mean, I can't explain it, but you know that's what it feels like. You know, as long as I remember that and what needing to have something fill that void feels like, then you know I'm okay for today. You know? Yeah. I remember the first time I got sick when I was in recovery. You know, I was just laying in bed and I'm like, and I think first time I had a really bad ear infection, and I was just laying in bed and like, okay, you know, I tried praying and all this stuff, normal stuff. And then I remember getting over that and then making myself get up and pray the next day. And after that, it became natural. Like the next time I get sick for like a couple days or whatever, I was like, hey, God, I'm here. Thanks for this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd, you know, get over it, and then I'd get back to praying. Yeah, I've gotten sick and hurt a few times, like physically hurt in recovery, and you know, I hurt my back real bad, and I could barely move, but I prayed every day I had to. Not for him to take it away from me, because that eventually I would live with it, or it would be, you know, I adjusted my lifestyle.
Yep.
Quit trying to be Superman. You know, that's because that was my biggest asset when I was taking Adderall. I was like, oh, I can do anything. Like I'm helpful. You know, no one's paying attention to this because my hands were over here. You know, not the crazy part, just that hey, I'm doing manual shit. Yeah. Stuff, whatever. Sorry.
Yeah, manual labor.
Yeah, and so I thought that was my usefulness in life, and you know, we get reminders. Yesterday, I was at work, and there's a big piece of a round metal. It's about this big, but like this, and I had to, you know, I don't have much going on at work right now. We're cut down to 4 days a week, which is tough, but God provides. I have everything I need. You know, I wish I could, but not right now. Yeah, God, you know, God's always saying, when it's not happening, not yet, you know, something's better coming along. So anyways, this big old piece of metal was on the table, and the saw was over here, and I picked it up, and I moved it over to the saw, and I was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, I'm fine. But I know now, like, okay, you know, I used to be in the mindset of, I can still do that. Okay, good, great. Now I shouldn't have done that, and I'm glad I didn't hurt myself, because, you know, I've done that too in the past, you know. Still thinking I'm a 20-year-old, you know, because, I mean, technically I did kind of misplace 20 years of my life, so.
Stunted the growth.
Yeah. Yeah. They someone when I first started said you when you start getting sober, mentally you're the age that you started drinking.
Yep.
And I believe that, you know. I mean, I was hard drinking at like 18 and 19.
Yep.
You know. I forgot to throw in my story.
It's okay.
Those friends I was hanging out with, one of them, he started working at a bowling alley in Plano. So I needed a job, and I got a job there.
And
Free
it's
beer.
there.
Free beer, it's there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, St. Patrick's Day, that green beer. Woo. I remember leagues would.
Oh no.
They would leave full pitchers and stuff. Oh yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, because they already drank like 2 of them. So.
Oh.
You know, I mean, there's 6, 7, 8 people drinking beer and stuff, and it's like, okay. One time, so I was a customer service representative. I cleaned tables, you know, got reset pins if they flew off the alley and all this stuff, whatever. And so ironically, at midnight, or at 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock on Friday and Saturdays, I'd have to say, you walk around in the pit with the trash can, like, hey, you know, drink it or toss it, you know. And one guy was being a little arrogant and belligerent with me, and there's a cop that worked there, which is thankful. He's like, oh man, you know, he set it down. He's like, man, now let me just bowl this frame. And he walked off. We kind of got into a little discussion, like, no man. So the cop walked over, and you know, he walked off to bowl, and I just grabbed it and I was doing my job, you know. I mean, and the guy got mad, and he was like, man, that was a $10 drink. And the cop was like, he's like, man, just go there. I'll take care of this, you know. But you know, I mean, I understand that mind frame now of like, yeah, I'd have been mad.
Oh yeah.
When it came to alcohol and drugs, we were ruthless. You know, I mean, I didn't, you know, at first I felt like I didn't fit in when I switched fellowships because I didn't do the hard drugs. You know, I felt that way because it was new. And, you know, that's something I've come to understand is like, we're, you know, like I said earlier, we're all here to help and learn from each other, you know?
Yep.
You know, I mean, it doesn't matter. We still had the same fucked mind. You know, it's like, I need to get this or do this, you know. So.
And it's just a hard rewire.
Yeah, so. It is. Yeah.
Shit. 6:42. Think about 30 minutes to get down there from here.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Okay. You want to wrap this up for now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Senor Ray, thank you very much. I also plan to interview everyone at least like 2, maybe 3 times, just because you can't get the whole story.
Okay.
In like what, an hour?
Yeah.
So
that's funny you say that. I don't talk much, but I talk a lot. You know, when you go see someone or hear someone tell their story, like from a group or something, it's like we've heard their story, but now we hear it all at once. You know? So.
Yeah. And it's also in the things that are unsaid.
Yeah.
So, but man, this is fun.
It was.
You've got the longest interview so far.
All right. Awesome.
So, I don't have a little trophy.
Oh, okay.
We'll find one for you.
Edit that out. That way no one can try and beat me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir. I will get everything set up. Well, packed up so that we may head on out to the fix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
You bet.